Okay, so this is the lid picture of a box chest from the tomb of Tutankhamun. Now, this box holds certain scientific principles. Most of them are perceptual principles, and we're going to get into a bit of perceptual science based on modern day, of course, just to give you all the proof that you require. Just want to say that this is not make-believe, this is not science fiction, this is not my own ideas, this is what I've learnt through these ancient encodings of the science. And yes, there is a magic to it. As we know, the higher science is perceived as magic by the lower minds. Okay, so here's the box here. Now, the strange thing is about this box, and we're going to find out why, is that most of the information is on the surface. It's on the outer perimeters and the surface of it. Now, why would one create a box and put the main information or whatever, what you wanted to store on the surface? Now, there is a very specific scientific reason for that, and we're going to get to it. But first, let's get to the core of Egyptian science. Now, we have certain symbolism in Egypt. We have whole schools of thought collapsed into a few certain symbols, and there's reasons for that too. It's not just fucking, oh yeah, this is a quick, easy way. There's reasons for it. Now, in our perception, in our entire being, we are limited. Now, this means data compression becomes important, so we do not get overwhelmed with information. And this compression also exists for quick, easy access. We have limitations within our perception, memory, energy, etc. Simplifying these things is essential in this sense for survival. Now, I've learned this, and my brain has expanded because of the need for survival. In an evolutionary sense, in the old days it was the smartest survived. Now these days the dumbest can quite easily survive. You can just go to the shops, get your stuff, whatever. Now that hasn't been the case for me. I've had to expand, and therefore I have evolved further beyond you people out there. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Necessity is the mother of invention. Okay, now, where should we go with this? Alright, where were we? So, it's a 3D object. And why would you create a 3D object? What's the purpose of having a box if there's nothing really of ultimate importance in it? And I can tell you the ultimate importance is on the surface for this very reason. Now, there's a thing called the holographic principle, and it is one of the most profound discoveries in the last few decades. It was actually realized by Stephen Hawking. Interestingly enough, I don't go much on the Big Bang Theory, but yeah. Now, how much volume can you stick into an object? Now, the answer is not as much as you can apparently contain on the surface area. Now, does that sound weird? Yeah, it's weird. But guess what? The universe and reality is weird. Now, we can take 4 smaller boxes, say this, and we can put them in there, and they may have less volume, these smaller boxes, but there's going to be more surface area. So you'll be able to put more information in these smaller boxes than in the big one. So you're following me so far with these holographic principles. Now, this is quite deep and quite profound when perceiving reality. Now, there were things in this box, games. This tells us something. One of the games was called Journey Through the Underworld, I think. And now that says something in itself. Now, when I started to understand this, I seen these little dots. There's little dots around here, and you find them and you join them, and eventually you end up with all this sacred geometry kind of jazz. And eventually I got to this, and I locked it, and I had reached a conclusion. Now, this conclusion can be considered one conclusion, but there is a whole lot of stuff involved. Now, it took me on this journey, just like the games in the box, Journey Through the Underworld. Now, this stuff is child's play to these beings that created it and that knew these scientific principles. And it draws a very clear, distinct line between their mind and ours. It will tell you who you and what you are. It'll give you a goal to achieve. But there is a clear separation between the divine mind and ours. Now, you can do all the third eye opening you want, but it's the teachings that will guide your perception. And this science is guiding you to a magical perception. Now, it is, like I said, it is the spaces in between also, like here. For example, I started to find things hidden in here, like hidden blueprints for pyramids and stuff. Now, there were markers. I used these as markers. Things line up. And I crossed the hemispheres of my mind. Just like the X represents the portal. I've done a video on the crossing of the hemispheres and the symbology there. The representation of Osiris with the X comes into it as well. And this is telling you to focus on the places in between. Now, it's all these objects, the items of the world that are distractions. The information, there is not nearly as much information in the volume of the three-dimensional world. then what you will find within, and even on the smaller scales. I really, really hope this is starting to make sense, because it's quite deep and hard to explain. I might even stop the video here and go over it, and I'll do a second run explanation. So, okay, what have we covered here? We've got a perceptual science based on a holographic principle that states that the volume does not contain as much information as the surface area. Go look up the principle yourself, and I'll be right back.